Hey y'all, it's Bear, and today we're going to talk about the de-evolution of horror book covers. This is something that I have noticed for a while, and I've seen a couple of other videos on it that I will link for you to go check out. But essentially what this video boils down to is I don't like the way that modern horror book covers look, generally. Everything I'm saying in this video, unless I mention specific examples, is a general statement. We understand that, don't be stupid. So I want to specifically take a look at the horror covers of the 70s, the 80s, the 90s versus modern horror covers. As a reader and someone who is like adjacent to the publishing industry, we're going to talk about the way that I think the marketability for books has changed. We're going to talk about art style and what is appealing to the general public. We're going to talk about promotional aspects. It doesn't just go for the horror genre. If you look at romance covers of the 70s, 80s, 90s versus romance covers today, mystery books, literary fiction, all of it, they all used to have a very specific look to them. You could go to any secondhand store and look at a book and you would know what genre it was solely based on the cover. That is not the case anymore. I'm going to pop up some graphics on the screen throughout this video. I think it's really interesting to look at the horror covers of days past, where they are these like full page paintings almost. Like this was an art form of very pulpy, graphic, sometimes vulgar, disturbing art. One of my favorite covers of all time is the one for a book called Fangs. You know, looking at this book cover, what kind of book it's going to be. Like, you can stare at that and know exactly what you're getting into. Same thing with romance novels, where you had these beautiful people in these beautiful clothes with like their rippling bodices and like the wind blowing through their hair. You don't get that anymore for romance novels. You don't get the science fiction novels that have like these aliens with these bulging eyes and like crab claws coming out of their mouths attacking people. You don't get those same details. And the kind of book covers that I want to see from modern horror, I am finding more so in indie authors. I'm finding more in self-published books. I feel like the one genre that still kind of does this is fantasy. I feel like I see a lot of fantasy covers that are very specific for the story, but even then, I've seen it changing over the past couple of years, where all genres of books are starting to have a more generalized look to them. I think that that has a lot to do with the fact that we are in an age of social media. We're in an age of digital marketing. I read an article a little bit ago that I will link downstairs if I can find it, that talks about the current publishing trends, and it was talking about how publishers are having book covers designed in a way that is easy for clicks on a small screen. On a small screen, if you're scrolling through like your Kindle library or audiobook selections or Amazon or Barnes & Noble or wherever you purchase your books, they have these, it's like bright swirly colors with like vague abstract shapes in the background and like text superimposed on them. We've also been getting a lot in the romance genre. And in the horror genre, I've noticed it's either like backdrops of a mountain or a cliff or a lake or a sunset or a field with giant text superimposed on it, or it's like a close-up of something because you want to be very close and it looks eerie, instead of these amazing full-page art details. I'm even going to be using one of my favorite books of all time, and that's The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. Another example, Goosebumps reprints, Fear Street reprints. Stephen King, God bless him, I don't like him, but his books are great examples of publishing reprints. So you can see these trends throughout the years, throughout the decades of them being published. Because so many people shop for books online through their phones, their tablets, their whatever, through their screens, right? That for something eye-catching, it's going to be something more simplistic. It's going to be something that's not full of heavy, detailed art. Because with heavy, detailed art, you have to focus on. You have to click it, you have to scroll in and zoom in and really pay attention to everything. And most of the time, that gets lost in the pixels. With book covers like these, you really don't have to do that. They don't get pixelated whenever you zoom in. You can see all the details from like a baseline on the screen. And they're simple. They're appealing to look at. They're very nice to look at, but they don't ever really tell you the story behind the book. I feel like with most book covers for books being published now, I don't look at the cover and get anything about the story. If the cover's pretty, that's great. But I can't look at a book cover anymore and say, ooh, this is going to be indicative of what is in the story. And I just think it's a shame that I can't look at book covers anymore and know exactly what I'm gonna get. Oftentimes, it's hard to even find the synopsis on a book anymore because the whole back of the book, instead of having a synopsis or a plot description, will be taken up with praise from like the New York Times bestseller list or other author blurbs or Entertainment Weekly. I have legitimately gone and looked at paperback books at a bookstore and not been able to find the synopsis anywhere, and ended up having to Google it on Goodreads, which kind of defeats the purpose of searching for books in a bookstore. If I'm going to have to Google the synopsis, which I can do, it's not a problem for me to Google it, but if I'm going to have to Google the synopsis and it's not anywhere that I can find it on the book quickly as I'm browsing, then are books even being designed anymore to be bought in store? I'm not trying to go all conspiracy theory, but it's something I've legitimately thought. Not to discredit anyone's work, I would never want to do that, but these book covers also generally seem easier to do. I think it has a lot to do with marketing and social media promotion, as well as people just like not trusting their readers. So say that you need to promote 10 books on your Instagram account. You take one photo of these 10 books that have nothing to do with each other at all. Because they all follow this same general cover format, it works, and people will click on it and be like, ooh, what's this? I do want to echo a lot of what I've seen in other videos that talk about this topic. I do think that book covers now look very nice. I'm just nostalgic for older book covers where, you know, the paintings felt gross to touch, where I was scared to look at them, but also by looking at them, I would know exactly what it was. Looking at this art and flipping through this book and seeing the stuff in here, you know that what you're getting is scary. And I think that goes into my next point, and that's that people in the publishing industry don't trust readers to know what they like. I feel like horror books now are almost ashamed to call themselves horror books. If you look at Barnes & Nobles, right? If you have Barnes & Nobles in your area, my Barnes & Noble didn't even have a horror section until like 2020. And the horror books were just mixed in with the regular books. They were in like the general fiction category, or if there were new releases, they would be up front with all of the new releases, or you would randomly see like a spooky table around Halloween. But there was not a designated section for horror books. And I think that that's because publishers don't want to label things as horror almost. Because horror has always gotten kind of a shit reputation, right? Like, horror's for those degenerate youths. And it always goes back to horror representing the fear of the modern times. And a lot of people like to read for escapism. People who are looking for an escape for modern day issues are not going to gravitate towards things that include social commentary or just subtext at all about modern day issues. They're going to look for something that they can escape into. We don't want horror novels to look like horror novels anymore. We don't want people to know that they're reading horror. I believe that this comes from an inherent distrust that horror is a dying genre. I feel like people almost assume that the general public is stupid now, and they're not wrong. Like, there's a lot of stupid people out there. It's just interesting to me that we can't trust horror readers to know what they're going into whenever they pick up a horror book. And I think that that's also because publishers are not marketing horror to horror fans. People who love genre fiction are always going to track it down. Like, it doesn't matter where you shelve it in the bookstore, I'm still gonna find it. But to someone who isn't a fan of genre fiction, they're going to the bookstore just to browse, they are likely going to pick up something that looks like this instead of something that looks like this. And I think that that's really a shame. Alright, that's all I have for this video. If you enjoyed this discussion, let me know downstairs in the comments. You can like, subscribe, hit the bell, share, all of that good stuff, as well as answering the comment question of the day. Comment question of the day. I want to know what your favorite horror book cover is. It can be a modern cover, it could be like a vintage one, it can be whatever. Just let's talk about your favorite horror covers down in the comments. Let's chat about the artwork, all of that good stuff. And if you don't have time, you don't have the spoons, you don't have an answer, or you don't want to answer, let me know you made it all the way until the end of the video by leaving me an emoji, preferably a yellow heart or a smiley face emoticon. All my social media links will be downstairs, as well as places to support me further and links to the videos that I mentioned today. Alright, I hope you have a wonderful, whatever it is, wherever you are, and I will see you tomorrow with another video. Thank you for watching. Okay.